Hello, the doc is in, and welcome back to another chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 218. Alright, so, coming off the last chapter, basically, we get a little introduction into Yorozu, find out her curse technique. She has construction, kind of like Mai, it seems. She's really good with it. She's very strong, because she just very, very confidently is just like, dog, I'm gonna beat you up, and then you're gonna be my husband. And Sukuna agrees to this, obviously, because he's just like, well, you're just never gonna beat me. But she's very confident in it, and they have a little bit of a scuffle, and she has a little bit of temper tantrum because Sukuna refuses to use his own curse technique because of the plan he has with the whole playing making me soul down, blah 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 blah. So then she activates this bug form, and Sukuna summons Maharaga. Now let's get into the next chapter. All right, so this chapter starts off with a little bit of flashback, a little bit context of who Yorozu is. We get to see her original form, it seems. She kind of looks fairly similar to Tsumiki, except for eyebrows are different. And maybe you could argue like maybe her hair is longer, but you can't really, whatever. Anyway, so basically we find out that the curse technique isn't the greatest, but Yorozu is pretty strong. But she's trying to take it to that next level. She's trying to figure out what can I really get out of this curse technique. And after observing a bunch of different insects and kind of finding out more information about insects, she kind of buys into this idea of nah, these insects cooking. And so she creates her bug armor by basically combining different aspects of bugs and creating this whole thing. Because insects are very efficient with how they use their energy and are able to do very big feats in comparison to their size, relative to their size, bug armor. And when she's like, hey, this is the peak of our technique, which we basically find out, I don't even know what the best way to put it, it impressed some Heian Eren people, like some generals, and yada yada yada. And basically through sheer respect of her skill and ingenuity, she gets entrance in the Fujiwara clan. That's pretty much how it works. It's a little bit more explainy, and they hit a lot of different names and stuff, but it's all Heian era stuff, and technically isn't relevant to the current story. So the just of it is she's technically a part of the Fujiwara clan, or at the very least her work with her technique basically gave her entrance into a major clan back in the Heian era. Boom. Anyway, so we cut back to the actual fight. Open up, she socks Sukuna in the face. That is a feat not done ever, I think. You don't just, no, Itadori did that one time, but he kind of snuck that punch in. She just walked up, not walked, but she came up on him and got the squabble in. Punches him in the face. He goes flying. She then flies herself with her bug wings behind Sukuna. Sukuna stops he's flying back, but he stops his flying back to summon the cursed dogs again. But she's able to fly around them and follows up the punch with a kick. Kicks him into the walls of the stadium. Side note, Maharaga's not out yet. There's a clarification. He has the wheel behind his head. No Maharaga. I didn't mention that. There's no Maharaga in this chapter. So stop asking. Moving on. So she kicks him, right? And so she's basically taunting Sukuna. He's like, oh, why don't you use your shrine? You cut me up. Bury my love by slicing me. All right, witness me. And so, she's still fighting him, and he has just a deadpan face. He's like, okay, whatever. And she locks up this area with her liquid metal because she can still control the liquid metal while using this form, right? And behind this little liquid metal spikes area, he summons tranquil deer, or Madoka deer, and this deer creature comes out. This is another 10 Shadows Shikigami, by the way. Summons it, it immediately dispels all the metal, and it also heals him. Interesting. So basically the gist of it is that the deer has the ability of reverse curse technique, which allows it to heal the user, as well as dispel curse techniques in the immediate area. I'm not sure if it's like a range of effects or not, but the gist of it is the reason why the metal goes down is because it's the curse technique, the cursed energy in the metal has been dispelled, therefore making Yorozu lose her control of it. He then follows up by summoning Piercing Bull. Okay, 2 new Shikigamis off the bat, alrighty. Tackles Yorozu, and basically we find out a little bit about why Sukuna's version of the Ten Shadows technique is the way it is. And the gist of it is, he's basically using a different variant of the Ten Shadows technique. In essence, what they say is that, he's basically reconfiguring the stats of the different Shikigami, where he's kind of like he's exchanging like power for range and so on. So the reason why they have different shapes and so on is because he's like, okay, let's make them less physical, more shadowy, so that then they're more conforming to like his shape and like can change form, because what we see with the dogs, where he doesn't have like the actual totality dog, so he has initially a bunch of different shadowy looking dogs that he can combine them to make more of like a bigger, more robust dog that probably has more damage but probably isn't as fast as the full totality. And initially, technically, this should reduce like their reduce some other stats, but because he's also fueling the technique with his own cursed energy, it kind of makes up for any losses, basically giving him more versatility without losing any power. But he summons the bull and the deer in their full forms. These aren't edited by him, so this is just what the Shikigami look like, and that explains why things like Noi look like absolutely giant. It's because he's just pumping it up with his cursed energy. With that all being said, Bull is pressing Yorozu, right? But she tries to get the ball up off her. She tosses it back, right? But it doesn't really go too far back, and then she follows up with a punch on his head, and it quite literally tanks it and proceeds to press her again, tagged. And basically we learned that the way the bull works is that it can only move in a straight line, but the more distance it covers before it hits, it gets more damage. After getting hit by this, and it even cracking a little bit of her armor, we see Rabbit escape. And Yorozu's kind of like, I mean, there's nothing I can really do about this. So she's like, you know, what are you hiding? You feeling guilty? And we just see Sukuna flying, skywalk, what is this, One Piece? And he starts laughing at her a little bit, and he's like, let's see if you can endure this. Max Elephant. It's called Myriad Elephant in the scans. I don't know if that's like a translation thing or not. It does look different. The elephant does look different than how it usually looks, but that could be for any number of reasons. For right now, though, he drops it from orbit, right? He drops effectively a meteor on her. This is the Madara moment, and it breaks her armor completely, like just absolutely shatters it. They come to the ground, and basically Sukuna's like, as I thought, there was no need to use my shrine after all. Is that all your so-called love amounts to? And she's like, no, it's not. This is only the very beginning. You know, I understand what it feels like to be lonely because of your peerless strength, and I'll teach you about love. And Sukuna starts laughing at her, and she's in shock. Now, there are a couple of reasons why that might be happening. I have my thoughts on it, and Yorozu gives her thoughts on it. Yorozu says, basically she takes this as him already knowing about love, because she's like, oh, I'm going to teach you about it. And she interprets his laugh and his face as like him basically being like, you don't think I know what love is? And she basically denounces like the love he may have already known, and is like, oh, I'll show you what real love is. And she's like, I'll construct my heart. End of chapter. Now, well, first off, end chapter, whatever. No break next week. Let's go. Now, I didn't interpret it that way before I read it, My interpretation was that he was kind of making fun of the idea that she's like, oh, she understands the loneliness of peerless strength, kind of in a sense saying that like, oh, they're the same. And Sukuna, hearing her basically say like, oh, we're the same, he's like, huh? Me and you the same? I just neg diffed your best ability. You like literally in her flashback, she says that is the peak of her technique, right? And he quite literally not using his own technique, theoretically using a technique he doesn't even really know, right? One shot her. Well, not one shot. Okay, he hit her with a couple of different things. Right. But nonetheless, he pretty easily whooped her. Now, given she did get some hits off. And Sukuna did some of the Maharaga thing, which we'll get into in just a moment. But he did beat her ass pretty effortlessly. I mean, to the point where he didn't even bother using his own reverse curse technique, and he has reverse curse technique. Probably the best in JJK. Well, maybe not the best in JJK, but definitely he's up there for best reverse curse techniques. And he just used something else just to complete the plan. He's quite literally, this is a boss level, and he's being like, oh, I want to do this, I want to get some style points on this, so I'm just not going to use my main weapon, I'm only going to use my secondary. She's like, huh, how are you going to beat me with just your secondary? He's like, I'll just do it right now. Duh. So that's the situation here. But don't get the wrong idea. Yorozu is definitely strong. She socked Sukuna in the face. Not a feat, easy to do. Period. 15 fingers Sukuna, he doesn't just take hits to the face. She had to have gotten that head off. She had to just gotten that head off. With that being said, though, we don't as far as the Maharaga wheel thing. So first off, Maharaga is not summoned. Now, if that's because Yorozu interrupts the summoning, I don't know. But we have the wheel behind his head, and it does nothing this chapter. As we know, the Maharaga can effectively, he basically adapts to everything and he heals. And it kind of coincides with the wheel, but we never actually see the wheel do anything. As I mentioned, the Tranquil Deer is actually what heals him. Therefore, meaning so far it appears that the wheel's not doing anything at all. But obviously we may see a little bit more going on where it'd be like, oh, it's like it's going to make this a quick activation for Maharaga, where, and now he has the wheel, as soon as he needs like Maharaga to come out, or like he wants to partial summon Maharaga, it just happens. He doesn't need to do like the whole ritual thing, right? So I mean, we'll see as far as that goes. Anything else interesting happened in this chapter? It is interesting to see two new Shikigami. From what I've heard, I think this leaves only one Shikigami left, and so there's one we haven't seen at all. So that should be interesting. Maybe we'll see them next chapter or 2 chapters from now. And there's a little bit of Yorozu backstory, but like I said, most of the stuff isn't that relevant. It's kind of just a little bit more information just for, conjecture. But most of it just comes down to, this is why she has the bug armor. This is where it came from. And it's the pinnacle of her technique. And now it's destroyed. And now we will wait for the next chapter. With that all being said, thank you for watching. Doc is out. Peace.
Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe and watch the videos on the right. Other than that, the doc is out. Bye.